Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 508.
Woo!
As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I am joined by Viable Human Chris Saturn.
Hi, Justin.
Hi, Saturn. I feel like we've already done a whole show. We've been talking for so long on the pre-show, which you can get if you subscribe to our Patreon. I don't know what that voice is. That's my salesman voice. It doubles as my Krusty the Clown voice.
Yeah.
It's second show of the night energy. I'm allowed to do it. My week. I did pick up the Space Marine 2.
The housekeeping, it's still not Switch 2 week.
Yeah, still not Switch 2 week. So we're still in the past.
Yes.
It's March 27th where we are.
Yeah.
So for now.
The before times.
I've been playing the Space Marine 2.
Okay.
And it is more Space Marine. It's really good. It's very fun.
2 Space 2 Marine.
It's 2 Space 2 Marine was the working title. I'm a little saddened by it. You know, I wish it's missing a little bit of the silliness of the first one. I think I talked about it before on the show, but I think I'm about halfway through it, and I took a break to go play Suikoden, which I also got on PS5.
Yeah.
And the whiplash I felt coming from like an ultra modern, gore-filled tech demo feeling like high-end PS5 action game to a barely remastered PS1 game on the same system was a little much.
And Suikoden, even on PS1, kind of felt like an RPG Maker project.
Yeah.
So it's always been a very basic game.
It's very, so just going from those two extremes, I had a little bit of whiplash.
Launchier PS1 game.
And then I forgot that the PS5 doesn't have quick resume, so I can't switch between my games at will, which is, what the fuck are you doing, Sony? Just, of all the things, steal that.
Yeah.
Please steal please. I would love to be able to take a quick break from Tyrannid slaying to go grind a couple levels in Suikoden and then go back.
My best guess is either Microsoft has patented something or there's actually some hardware that is making it happen, which could be why they have the specific SSDs in the Series X and S, because it does run at a higher bus speed than the standard PCI Express that the PS5 uses.
It's just frustrating. It makes me really want to play anything RPG like on the Series X. Yeah, but that's not where they're all coming out at.
True. I did play Suikoden on Series X, though.
Yeah, I should have got it on Series X, because then I could take quick Tony Hawk breaks in the middle of Suikoden, which is, I forgot that that's a thing. In any game I'm playing on Series X, I'll play it for 30 minutes and then go play 5 minutes of Tony Hawk and then come back for another 30 minutes of whatever I'm playing. And it enhances every gaming experience.
Now, question for you. Since you're playing Suikoden on the PS5, did it have to install an update that was bigger than what was on the disc?
Oh, I don't remember.
Because the Xbox version did.
Because I'm trying to do all my PS5 stuff physical where I can, I've gotten in the habit of when I want to play a PS5 game I haven't played yet, I put it in and then I go like fuck off and have lunch or something while it installs and updates, and then I come back later. So I didn't see it because I want to say it had a decent sized download. I remember it, like I came back to it and I was like, oh, I'm still having to wait on this fucking download.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the size. And on my internet, that could mean anything. I also finally looked into setting up SyncThing, which I see a lot of people kind of bill as like self-hostable cloud storage like Google Drive, but you host it yourself. It's really kind of different than that, because it is peer-to-peer. It's everything's peer-to-peer. There's no like central SyncThing server. They all just sync with each other peer-to-peer mode.
Okay.
But I set it up on my RG35XX SP and my Miu Mini and my laptop and my server, because I wanted all my my SRM save states and my or save files and my actual save states synced between all my different retro arches that I use. Because with my handhelds, I use different handhelds for different purposes. And I also like the idea of having my saves put onto my central server so that I know that they're safe in case I accidentally fuck up an SD card or delete a save or do something stupid.
Fair.
And so it took some doing, but I eventually got SyncThing set up running on multiple machines. It's running on my handhelds. It's running on my file server and my laptop and my desktop. It's syncing my ROMs folder. So like if I show up and I'm like, oh, I got a ROM hack for the Super Nintendo game, and I throw it on my RG35 SP, then it'll sync to everything else, and then it will sync my save states. So whatever device I end up on, it'll be there as well.
Nice.
And it's pretty slick. It's pretty nice. I don't generally treat emulator save states with the same kind of reverence I do a traditional save.
Fair.
They're not in my head, in air quotes, like permanent, because everything on a computer I consider transient.
Right.
And it's just kind of a weird thing. And I got all synced. The only frustrating part is the Steam Deck. So in RetroArch, you can set it so that it saves your save states and files in a folder for each core. So like your SNES 9X core has a folder of all of its save states, because the save states don't transfer across different cores. And then your Beetle PCE will have a folder with all of your Beetle PCE save states. That's a setting you have to turn on in RetroArch, and EmuDeck doesn't have that setting turned on. Its save states are all just in a big blob mixed together. And also doesn't have the option to enable it in the version of RetroArch that EmuDeck installs. And I think it's because EmuDeck has a cloud service to sync your save states that they are trying to pitch, that they want you to use. That's my guess anyway. I can't imagine why they would remove that option from RetroArch.
Right.
Because the file structure of your save state folder shouldn't have any major effect on how anything in EmuDeck works.
No, it shouldn't.
The only thing I can think is that that's how their cloud service is going to expect it to work.
Isn't EmuDeck installed through Flatpak?
It is.
Flatpak doesn't have access
No, I'm sorry. EmuDeck is not Flatpak.
Oh, okay, never mind.
The emulators it installs are usually flat-packed.
Because sometimes flat-packed applications don't have access to all the same folders that a native application would, and so like they can't access like your home folder, for example, unless you explicitly give them permission to.
RetroArch runs out of my home folder. It's in the var folder.
Okay.
But even then, within its own folder structure, it has access to making new folders and moving stuff
it should
around
absolutely
in there.
be able to do that.
So I don't understand.
But if the emulators are Flatpak and the RetroArch is not, maybe that could be causing an issue.
But the emulators are just cores in RetroArch.
That's weird.
So I don't know. I can't think of a reason for them to do it that way other than we
either.
want you to use our service and be on our Patreon, which I don't want to levy that claim against them.
No.
But it is frustrating because I want my Steam Deck to sync all my RetroArch saves with everything else.
Yeah.
Which it cannot seem to do unless I want to change my folder structure on everything else, which would be more of a pain than just changing it on the one device. But it's nice. Sync thing's very nice. I've got it running and everything. It just runs as a service in the background, and you just load it up via a web page, and everything's peer-to-peer. So like if I've got multiple files on two different machines that a third machine wants, it will pull from both of them simultaneously.
Yeah.
And it makes it all a little bit faster and quicker. I've not really kicked the tires on it, so to speak, because I'm not doing a lot of emulation stuff right now. I'm mostly buried under Xboxes. But I'm hopeful and excited, and I hope it works good and does what it says on the tin.
Nice.
But it's for anyone looking for something. I also use it to like I'm trying to get away from cloud services in general, so I set it up to sync my camera roll with my file server, so all my pictures and videos go there.
Yeah.
And I also set up Joplin, which is a free open source notes program, and I set up SyncThing to sync my Joplin folders, so whenever I do like notes on my phone, it'll sync with my laptop and kind of use it as a self-hosted like OneNote solution.
That's neat.
And then I just need to get away from Office 365, and then I'm good. Although I really only use Office to edit show notes collaboratively with you, so I just need something that'll have that collaborative function, and then I'm golden.
Google Docs.
Yeah, I just don't want to do Google Docs.
I think OnlyOffice has something.
I think they do. If I think OnlyOffice has something. I looked into it, but I was confused because they also provide like enterprise shit, and I couldn't figure out like what is just for personal and what's enterprise. But just little baby steps in my digital self-sufficiency plan.
It's fair. And now that I have my server set up at home, I'm trying to move as much as I can to that and away from cloud services. So I'm with you.
Yeah, and I'm also hoping that because now what I didn't like when I synced all these emulator saves together from these different devices, what I didn't have was one master set, right? So like the good thing to do would be like this device has my master set of save files, and I'm going to delete all the other ones, and this will then propagate this one set outward. The way I did it was I got save files I kind of care about on all my devices, so I'm just going to sync them all with each other into one giant blob.
Nice.
So I might have already destroyed all of my work and haven't noticed it yet. But it seems to be working. It seems to be because I've been playing Pokemon Crystal Clear, and I can load it up on one device, play a little bit, save, and then go to a different device, and it will be there. So
nice.
At least the SRAM saves seem to be functioning. Save states are a little finicky. But beyond that, I think I'm good. I think it might be working. I don't know. Saturn, what have you been doing?
I tried to set up a WireGuard VPN on my server so that I could remote into my home network from outside of my home.
My Pi.
And and it seems to work as far as giving me a valid IP address, and I can ping all the devices within my network. But then I immediately lose internet connection and can't connect to any of the devices in any way other than a ping. So I'm still working on that. That's
I will
a work
say,
in progress.
For what it's worth, I know you want to keep everything on the one server because it's nice, but there is a VPN setup script for PiOS called PiVPN, and it makes it so...
that same script works on Debian, so... Yeah.
Oh, well, I was going to say that, so you could just load it up on a Pi and do that, but it sounds like you're already down that path. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what I'm doing on the Debian container. It
could be an ISP related thing too. ISPs are weird about shit.
Could be. Oh yeah.
That's the one upside to my rural ISP is I can just kind of do whatever I want and they don't give a shit.
Do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
No, I was watching some video that was showing a dude trying to get modern games working on older computers and older operating systems, and just seeing what he could get to run on what.
Sure.
And he was trying all kinds of modern games, and it was intriguing me, and I was like, I want to get dumb shit to run on dumb shit too. That sounds like a fun day. And then he finally narrowed down to like, well, Minecraft, that's the one thing I can get to work on everything because it's just Java based, and I can just install OpenJDK and then probably get Minecraft to work as long as it can run a 64-bit application.
Mm-hmm.
And then watching that, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to play some Minecraft. I haven't played that in a while. I'll give it another shot. And I was trying to figure out how to play it on my laptop because I'm running Linux. And I was like, well, I could run the Java version because, again, that'll run on anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the other version is the one that, like, syncs with everything.
And has all the cool shit and the new updates and all that stuff, yeah.
Well, they keep updating the Java version, too.
Do they? Maybe my information's old. I always thought the Java version was, like, a little bit behind features-wise, but I might just be misremembering,
possibly,
or maybe they changed it.
I don't think it has all the controller support and all that kind of stuff that the other version does. But they Microsoft isn't releasing it on Linux because they want you on Windows.
Microsoft.
So they aren't going to release it on Linux themselves. But I was looking to see if anybody had like suggestions to get it to run through Wine or something like that, and somebody was like, "Why? Microsoft already ported it to the Linux kernel."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "What do you mean?" And it's the Android version. Runs on the Linux kernel. So some genius just made a front end that converts the APK from the Google Play Store into a native Linux executable.
All right.
And then it just runs.
All right.
And the thing is, it runs beautifully. And I thought this was some magic that the dude that did this front end did, because it acts like a native PC client. It supports keyboard and mouse. You can resize the window to whatever size you want. You can use console commands. Everything from the PC game is there in this APK converted into a Linux file. And then I learned that the version that they pulled from the Google Play Store is not the ARM Android version. It is the x86 Android version that is used on Chromebooks.
Oh, I forget about Chromebooks.
Of course, it supports everything that a PC would support. Me too.
Exist.
So apparently the Chromebook version is feature parity with the Windows version. And so when you just convert the APK of the Chromebook version into a Linux app, it is the Windows version. Effectively, it even signs you into Xbox Live when you open it.
I would be shocked to see the actual list of what all devices currently have ports of Minecraft. It's got to be everything, right? Like everything. It's the new Doom.
Well, not all of them are still up to date, but yeah,
true. But it'll
all
run.
fucking everything.
It's somewhere.
Yeah. I also saw a video of some dude installing Windows NT on a Wii. And I kind of
You sent me this.
Yeah. I think I posted it in the group chat, but it's just some dude who installed Windows NT on a Wii and then ran Doom on it.
That's his preferred version of Doom.
Yeah. Windows NT on Wii.
The Wii NT port.
So I tried Minecraft again and quickly realized why I don't play that much Minecraft is because once I've survived the first couple of days, I run out of things to do because I don't want to build anything. I just want to become self-sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to get plopped down in a place where there were plenty of sheep and pigs and chickens and cows. So I had all the food and wool and leather that I need. And then I was just like, well, I guess I just need iron. And I couldn't find iron to save my fucking life.
You got a mine for it, Saturn.
Well, that's the thing. I built all these different mines and just found all these caverns and shit, but I couldn't find any iron. So I just kept digging down until I found it. And at that point, I was like, well, now I've built this nice little community. I need to find some diamond. And so I'm trying to find some diamond. Not finding diamond for shit. Yeah. I'm all the way down to where it can appear, and I found like 12 pieces, but that's about it. And I keep like, every time I turn it off, I'm like, I've done all the things I'm going to do. I don't know why I'm going to even bother with this anymore. And then I started it back up a few hours later. So clearly something is clicking, and I just don't know what it is. I think it's just catching my OCD to make evenly shaped tunnels in my mind.
I mean that is the draw. That's the whole point is obsessively making things symmetrical and finding stuff like that's
all symmetrical things.
Yeah, that's it. That's what you do in the game. You're doing it correct. But,
I just keep waiting until I find the objective or goal.
Oh, you did.
Right now, my objective or goal is just get enough diamond to make things, and then what? So
no, that's it. That's the objective. You're done. You did it. You Minecrafted.
Yay.
Let's do some news.
Okay.
First up, GOG's preservation program has added over a dozen more games, including Silent Hill 4.
I'm so excited by this because they had released Silent Hill 4 on GOG a few years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago now, and it was just the PC version that had been previously released back in 04, just cleaned up to run on Windows 10.
Yeah.
Whereas that version has always been a little broken and missing features that were on the PS2 and Xbox versions.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always the inferior version of Silent Hill 4. Well, when they added it to the preservation program, GOG actually went in and hacked in all the shit from the PS2 version that was missing. So now it is not only up to date and working on Windows 10 and 11, but it is a better version than it has ever been on PC before. So I'm super excited about that.
Very exciting. Yeah. Big Rigs Over-the-Road Racing is coming to Steam this year, and I can't decide if I want them to fix anything or nothing.
I want them to fix nothing. I want the vanilla Big Rigs experience. Like maybe make sure it always launches.
Mm-hmm.
That's as much fixing as I want.
For people that are unaware, Big Rigs Over-the-Road Racing is not even really a functional game.
No.
It doesn't work. It's one of those famously bad broken games. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, the computer not even AI, but like the CPU players were never programmed in, so they just sit there. They never move. And the collision as far as driving up or down hills or whatever, also not programmed in, so you can just like full speed, you never decelerate. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then of course famously the best part of it is even though your Big Rig can only drive up to like 70 miles an hour, they forgot to put any cap at all when you're in reverse, so you can accelerate to infinity.
Like you do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so as long as you're going in reverse, you can go so fast that it completely destroys physics.
yeah. Square Enix has announced that Chrono Trigger has reached 5 million units sold, which doesn't seem like
It
a
only
lot.
took 30 years.
It does. It's for
Yeah.
people that want to treat this as one of the greatest games of all time. It sure hasn't sold like that.
Which it is.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's not
No, I
sold
wouldn't
like that.
disagree with that from a critical perspective. At all.
But yeah, it's 30 years in, it's only sold, what is that? Less than 250,000 units per year that it's been out.
It's too depressing to figure out the specifics. I'm just going to leave it. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
New Digimon Digital TCG, which is exciting. They'd come out with a tutorial app for the newest iteration of the TCG when it launched years ago. And everyone assumed that was going to be folded into eventually a full TCG client, and it just kind of never was. And so now I guess they're doing that, which is a cool thing to see. It's a fun card game for people that like the card games. And it's got Digimon on it.
I like that I knew I didn't have to put a full headline here, that I could just put a few words and you would know what this was and be able to describe it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Tony Hawk convinced Activision to include Bam Margera in the upcoming remaster. Apparently, Bam Margera was not going to appear in the game despite being kind of integral to the storyline of those games. And
we discussed that a couple weeks ago, I believe.
yeah, and Tony Hawk just was like, no, you're not gonna fucking do that. So good on Tony Hawk for standing up to them for that. I hope that I said in the chat, I was like, I hope this is a good thing for Bam Margera. He's had a tough time of things the last couple decades. So hopefully it is overall a good thing. Is what I hope. But we'll see.
Yeah.
A new MAME fork focuses on cave shmups with very high accuracy and minimal slowdown and input lag. This is really cool. I'm not a huge cave shmup person myself, but I'm excited for the people that do enjoy these games that they're gonna get a MAME fork that is kind of more specific to their needs, which is exciting.
Right. I just want to go back in time 30 years and say the phrase "a new MAME fork focuses on cave shmups with very high accuracy," and see like people's brains just melt in real time, because none of those words make sense in any order to most people.
Yeah, well, there you go. It is what it is. Former GamesIndustry.biz editor has formed a new game news website called The Game Business alongside Jeff Keighley.
Oh boy.
I'm so excited to hear more of Jeff Keighley talking to me about stuff.
I am excited about another games journalist thing because we need more journalism in the games industry so that we actually know what horrible crunch time they're pushing employees through.
Well, two things.
I just don't know that I want Jeff Keighley involved.
Well, first of all, we need actual games journalism.
We're
we don't
right.
know that's going to be that. Also,
True.
This is the worst name for a game news website ever. The Game Business?
It's not that much worse than gamesindustry.biz.
It is. I think it is. Next up, Tetris the Grandmaster 4 Absolute Eye is the name for some reason, and it will release on multiple consoles and PC on April 3rd. Why is it called the Eye or Absolute Eye?
I don't know. It's a weird subtitle. That's the only reason I put the entire name of the game in there is because
So
I wanted
strange.
to hear your reaction to it again.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
Silent Hill F was briefly reported to have been banned in Australia, though later reports say this was a mix-up with the Australian classification board, so hopefully Australia gets it.
Yeah, they
That would
haven't
be
said
nice.
definitively. They said that it is still under classification, like they're still working on its classification, presumably because they don't have the final product. But
Right.
something defaulted to saying that it would be restricted from sale, and people ran with that and freaked out. But they have told us no, not yet. It hasn't been restricted just yet. Maybe later.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Gaming-
They did. Konami showed what the Steelbook is going to look like, and it's fucked. It is just creepy as shit.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I never want a description of a steelbook for a game to be, it's fucked. That's not...
Let me phrase it this way. Don't look at it if you have tryptophobia.
Oh my God. Game Informer is back. They won't
Hooray.
leave. This is awesome.
I didn't check to see who all is with it. They are restarting the print edition of the magazine.
Yeah.
And it was acquired by Gunzilla Games.
Oh,
Who
boy.
are going to be printing it now. They have bought it from GameStop.
All right,
So.
then. I guess GameStop really will sell you anything. Portuguese.
Yeah, but it's a used Game Informer, so it's covered
one
in
used Game
stickers and
Informer
shit.
for $54.99.
Yeah, it's covered in stickers. It's scratched to fuck, but you
Yeah.
know it's still like 5% off of full price.
Portuguese soccer star Cristiano Ronaldo will be playable fighter in Fatal Fury: City of the Wolves. So cool. I'd ask who Ronaldo was. Someone in the chat told me he was a sports guy.
Well
I don't know who that
enough
was.
that I had heard the name before. He's a big enough athlete that I've heard that name before. I don't know anything about soccer or that
Well, I think
guy.
he's a
but-
normal-sized athlete. I think he's just a really popular one.
Okay,
So I
that
don't-
must be what they mean. That's why they talk about them.
A new StarCraft miniatures game has been announced, which is cool. At first, I thought it was they were re-releasing the old StarCraft board game, which has been critically out of print for a couple decades. But it's just a new StarCraft miniatures game from a company that sometimes makes good stuff. I forget who's doing it exactly, but it's StarCraft and it's miniatures, and it's not Warhammer. It's legally distinct. It'll only look like Warhammer on the table. So
I was a little disappointed first hearing about it because I thought that it would be like Hershey's miniatures.
no,
But it's not.
different type
It's
of miniatures.
It's little army men instead.
Ubisoft has spun off a division of their company that will own and publish games in the Ass Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry series. There's a new line on ass. So it says they're going to own and publish games in the ass.
I did not notice that when I was typing it in here.
Hey, what's Ubisoft's plan for the year? We're going to publish games in the ass. What does that mean? The new company will be 75% owned by Ubisoft, 25% by Tencent. Name is TBD at this time, and is probably the slow decline into Tencent owning Ubisoft, I would suspect.
So it is weird that their decision wasn't to keep their biggest, most profitable franchises. It was to spin those off and keep everything else.
What else is there?
Rayman.
Rayman, the Rabbids.
Yeah, the Rabbids, which are also Rayman. But all they immediately said that they would focus more on Ghost Recon, The Division, The Crew, things like that. So they're keeping all of the less popular, less profitable things. My guess is it just has started to cost so much to make these giant, big budget games that it is worth it for them to just spin them off and let them do their own thing with their own inflated budget while they focus on things that just don't cost as much.
I have an idea on that front. How about not everything has to be a life-defining games as a service, and we can just release small annually or semi-annual chapters in popular franchises that are fun to play and incorporate new ideas.
How dare you?
I don't fucking know. It's just a thought.
Stop Yakuzaing their ass creed.
Well, I wish Ubisoft luck in publishing games in the ass. There was a Nintendo Direct, a Nintendo Switch 1 Direct. We have to specify now because the Switch 2 Direct hasn't happened yet. This was for the 27th of March. That happened. We're recording on the 27th, so it was this morning for us.
Yeah. Well, it's 28th now. It's after midnight.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's exactly at 12:01. Thank you for the pedantry.
Yep, that's what I'm here for.
They showed Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D, which will also be published on PS5 and Xbox and PC and everything else. Did they release a date for this?
This summer, I believe, but it's sometime this year.
I love how none of the dates in this Direct wanted to give a date. They're just like nebulously around this year.
Yeah. Well, there are a few things had an actual date.
A couple. That's true.
Yeah.
More Dark Pac-Man. I don't remember what they call it.
Labyrinth.
Shadow Labyrinth. I want to call it Fatal Labyrinth. I think that's the third Cube movie. I'm so down for this. It looks stupid and weird, and I'm just super down for it. And he's not called Pac-Man.
He's called Puck.
Puck.
That's because nobody can vandalize the arcade machine.
Right. What if someone scratches off some of the P and makes
They
it?
can't because
fuck.
it's not an arcade machine.
I can scratch off part of my TV. You can't stop me.
Yeah, well, that's just your TV though. You're allowed to do that.
Patapon 1+2 collection and Everybody's Golf also coming to PS5 and PC, but coming to Switch, which cool.
That's interesting news because both of those are first-party Sony games.
Yeah, that's some Sony-ass Sony shit right there.
So, and notice what consoles those are not coming to.
Let's see which one. It can't be the Xbox because PS5 and Switch are Xbox because everything is an Xbox. So
yeah, so it'll be on PS5, it'll be on PC, it'll be on Switch. Some other thing.
There's I want them to add another console just to show that they're being assholes to Microsoft.
Like Amazon Luna.
Yeah, like the Luna or like the Ouya or something. just to be like, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
Shin Megami Tensei Raido?
I think it's Raido.
Raido remaster, which I don't know anything about this game, but it's SMT, so it looks kind of cool.
No.
New Story of Seasons. Story Seasons Grand Bazaar also coming to PC. I'm excited for this. Story Seasons is good and fun, and we should all play all of them all of the time.
No thanks.
By law.
Nope.
I declare it, and so now it's the thing that we do.
Damn it, that is how laws work.
Metroid Prime 4 is still coming 2025, I think it said.
Yep.
It looks cool. Samus is a wizard now. My favorite thing was that
she just has psychic powers.
She gets these wizard powers. They're wizard powers. She gets wizard powers, and she in the trailer goes, use her new powers to operate mechanisms. And I'm like, I operate mechanisms. I don't have powers. I operate mechanisms all the time.
You do have powers. You have kinetic powers.
It's just called moving things with my hands, Saturn.
That's kinesis.
It's when I use my kinetic powers to open doors.
It's not telekinesis or psychokinesis, but it is kinesis.
It was just my favorite. Use her powers to operate mechanisms. Whoa, there's mechanisms in this game? Holy shit.
I like that they started the Metroid Prime 4 teaser with scanning shit.
Yeah, well, you can't not scan things. That's the best part of the game. Gradius Origins Collection, including a brand new sequel to Salamander.
Oh, so stoked on this.
This one's also multi-plat. With the price was released at $40, which feels a little steep, but also new Salamander, so I don't know, I'm kind of torn.
It's coming out in August, and it looks like it's currently on sale 10% off on the Xbox and PlayStation stores. So for some reason, despite being announced on the Nintendo Direct, not yet visible on the eShop at the time that I was looking. So, you know.
Tamagotchi game and Tomodachi Life game both announced. I'm stoked on both of these.
Both of these are Switch exclusive.
Oh man, this is exciting. First of all, Tomodachi Life. If nobody played Tomodachi Life on 3DS, it's fucking incredible. You can put Saturn and Andrew and Guy in your 3DS game, and you can make them hang out with each other in little tiny apartments and make them do weird stuff together, and it's fun, and it's my favorite, and I love it so much.
I'm suddenly less comfortable with this.
No, you can't stop me because I'm allowed. So it's exactly what I do. And if you remember, I would also send you guys pictures of your Tomodachi versions of yourselves hanging out with each other.
Wasn't that during the era of Miitomo too?
It was during that era. I think this is pre-Guy joining the show too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. Tomodachi Life is a fucking blast. The Tamagotchi game looks good too. I'm excited for both of them. Also,
I'm sorry, it was Tamagotchi.
Tamagotchi is the correct pronunciation.
It sounded so weird.
Most people say Tamagotchi, but it is technically Tamagotchi. It did come up in the chat, and so I got to correct everybody about Tamagotchis, and I was very excited. Also, my Monster Hunter Virtual Pets came in the mail today, so it's just been such an exciting day for me. This has been incredible.
This is peak life for Justin right now.
I can pretend. I have so many pretend little virtual creatures in my life, and new ones coming. It's great. New Rhythm Heaven game announced, which cool. Rhythm Heaven's cool. I like that. It's not like incredible groundbreaking for me, but they're fun games. So I'm
and there's been pretty high demand for New Rhythm Heaven for a little while now. So that's
what was the last one?
Also, Tomodachi
3DS?
both. I believe so. I think both those been dormant for a few years now. So it's good to see those come back.
Yeah. Saga Frontier 2 Remaster, also multi-plat, also coming out. So there you go.
Also missing Xbox for some reason.
Yeah, well, fuck the Xbox. Everything
is
an
Saga
Xbox.
Frontier
so
Remaster is on Xbox, but not this.
Well, Saga's getting a lot of love lately. So,
it is.
you know.
I always forget how popular Saga is over in Japan, considering we
here.
mostly ignored it.
Yeah. Which brings us to our topic at hand. Speaking of that, which is gaming reality checks.
Yeah, like Saga, more popular in Japan.
Yes. Synopsis is, turns out we don't really know this hobby as much as we thought we did. Scope for this episode is so this is kind of thematically similar to the Retro Gaming Myths episode that we did, but this is more about things that we don't feel like they should be true, but are true.
Yeah.
And I, not because I'm lazy and shirked my responsibilities, did not do these notes or read most of them so that I could be surprised. I seeded some ideas, I think.
Yeah.
I had some preliminary other notes that I think you took some ideas from.
Yeah.
But I had learned a fact that was surprising to me, and I was like, that can't be right.
Yeah.
And we decided to do a whole episode of shit like this. So I'm hoping that I'm just shocked this whole episode. Although, yeah, some of these were my idea. But Saturn, I'm gonna let you take the lead on some of these, and maybe I'll jump in and state some of them just so that you don't have to talk for the whole rest of the episode. But I'm very excited about this.
I'm curious how much of this is surprising. I'm hoping that all of this is at least unexpected.
Yeah, and you much more than me have a more encyclopedic knowledge of companies and sales and things. That was
true. Yeah.
Never a thing I followed or was interested in.
Yeah.
I just liked the games that I liked, and I liked collecting cool stuff, but I was never really interested in the business side of it. And you have been a long-time enjoyer of the business side of video games.
Oh, yeah. I was the weirdo reading the copyright info on Super Nintendo boxes back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So I found that fascinating.
You are perpetually saying stuff to me that I'm like, that can't be right. And then I look it up and I'm like, oh, it is right. So I do think in that way we're coming at it with different perspectives. Of me as more of a like enjoyer of the media, and you is more of a someone who cares about the framework that the media exists within.
Yeah. I like the minutia. I like the mechanics, behind the scenes mechanics.
So you have these categorized. Let's start with sales stuff. I'm very excited about this one.
All right. So you had put in the Cedar notes about RPGs during the 16-bit era and how despite the massive popularity on emulators and retro gaming scenes, they were never all that popular over here at the time. Which is true. They never got anywhere near the sales of like a Street Fighter or a Contra or Donkey Kong Country or a Sonic or anything like that. However, they still sold better than a lot of people seem to think they did. Many of these games sold well enough to actually chart in the U.S. Final Fantasy VI sold nearly 1 million units here in the U.S. That's not anywhere near what it sold in Japan, but enough that it was the highest-selling Super NES game of October 94 in the U.S.
I love that immediately you've turned my reality check into like a double reality check of people, because the whole idea is that like the Super Nintendo is very much remembered as this like holy grail of RPGs. Super Nintendo and PS1 specifically are like, these are the JRPG systems. And I had always been told like, JRPGs, like they were definitely hitting their strides in those systems, but especially on the Super Nintendo, they weren't system sellers. But then you're coming in and saying that maybe they were more successful, that, it's not so black and white of like, either they're the greatest selling thing ever or they sold like shit. And it's just, they seem to be good middle of the road titles some of the time.
Well, the thing was, when Final Fantasy VII came out on PS1, it was a system seller. It just blew
that
away
was the
sales
anomaly.
numbers. Nobody expected that. So it was unexpected coming from the RPG sales of the Super NES era. But the games did better than people give them credit for. Because at the time, very few people were following them. Like it was, they weren't mainstream successes. But they had a dedicated fan base like myself that were buying them at the time. Yeah. And they weren't complete disappointments. It was enough that companies like Square and Enix could keep pumping out games for a little while anyway.
Yeah. I was trying to look into, because I was curious, delving deeper into the JRPG rabbit hole. I was looking at sales numbers of Final Fantasy VII versus Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Final Fantasy VIII, especially after the fact is kind of remembered as like, yeah, that weird one that wasn't remotely as good as the ones around it.
But it was still a huge release at the time.
It sold so much better than I ever would have imagined.
Oh, yeah.
It sold insanely well.
Yeah, it was a massive, massive hit at the time that it released.
Yeah.
Also, we had mentioned, I think it was last episode in the news. I don't think it was this week, but the Chrono Trigger finally hit 5 million copies sold total.
Yes, total. Of all time.
It only sold 290,000 units in the U.S. between both the Super NES and PS1 releases.
God, it also came out on DS. It's also on PC. It's also been released on mobile. Like 5 million lifetime across all these platforms.
Yeah, the 3 million of those 5 million sales were just from DS, mobile, and Steam.
I don't know all the details, but I'm going to assume that I mean, games were cheaper to make back then, obviously.
True. Yeah.
And much smaller sales could still lead to what would be considered financial success, or at least breaking even. But this was very much like a Dream Team pet project kind of game that probably had a decent amount of money put into it.
Most likely, yeah.
And I wouldn't be shocked to learn that it might have lost money for a while.
Yeah, the Japanese release was incredibly successful. I want to say it was like 1 million units within the first few months or something.
Yeah.
So it was very, very successful over there. It's just that the localization of it was nowhere near as successful as they wanted. It wasn't even as successful as Final Fantasy VI, which is kind of weird to me because the people that I knew that were not super into RPGs at the time, I was able to get them into RPGs by showing them Chrono Trigger, and they'd be like, "Oh, it looks like Dragon Ball."
Yeah.
And that got their attention. So I'm a little surprised that just the cover art being very Toriyama was not enough to sell it over here. But it was, granted, this was, as the PS1 and Saturn were releasing, so a lot of attention was distracted towards the new consoles.
I want to do this next one just because I learned this on the show when we did the episode on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's one that I love repeating. And it is that the Genesis outsold the Super Nintendo in North America until after the release of Star Fox in 1993.
As someone who was there at the time, it felt pretty obvious because you would, like, if I went to my local video store or if I had money that week and could go to Blockbuster, the Genesis section was bigger than the Super NES section for quite some time.
We covered sales numbers on the Genesis episode. Like, it kicked the Super Nintendo's ass for those few seasons.
Oh yeah, for a couple of years there.
And so in 93 I was 5. So I have never been really cognizant in a world where Genesis was bigger in North America than the Super Nintendo. And I think we also have established I grew up in a very Nintendo centric area.
You lived in some anomaly area that had never heard of Sega.
Yeah, and so it's always been so shocking to me. I'm sure people in the UK are like, of course it did, but it was different here. It's a little different here. Yeah. This next one is the one that inspired this episode, so I'm excited for it. I'm very excited for this one.
So
I'll let you do it.
Jumping forward a few generations to the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Of course, the 360 had a huge head start, really knocked away sales numbers for several years there. The PS3 did ultimately overtake the Xbox 360 in total unit sales, though the Xbox 360 remained the highest selling console in its native North America up until when the systems were officially replaced. I don't know if that continued after they were replaced. I was struggling to find some final sales numbers because Sony kept selling the PS3 for quite a while.
Yeah.
Whereas Microsoft killed off the 360 relatively quickly.
So the idea that worldwide sales for the PS3 eventually eclipsed the 360 is mind-blowing to me.
Really?
Blows my mind because I was there. I was like 15, 16 working video game retail when the 360 came out, and I was there for PS3 launch, and PS3 launch was like a fucking joke. It was pitiful. Like 360 launch, I remember it was so big. It was the biggest midnight launch my GameStop had ever done. And we hired a band that played a full concert in the parking lot.
Nice.
It was a literal like parking lot party at midnight for 360 release. It was a huge fucking deal. PS3 release was like one guy showed up and was like, "You got that PS3?" And then when he left, we made fun of him for spending $600 on it.
I'm wondering if maybe just you lived in an area where people didn't have $599 American dollars.
That's possible. I didn't have $599 American dollars, and Sony told me to get a second job, and I couldn't because I was already working the first job and going to school full time.
Right.
But it like the 360 it had a head start. It sold so much better. Everyone I knew played it. There was occasionally the weird person that had a PS3. Now the PS3 picked up steam with its redesign, the slim redesign. It dropped the price to $299.
Yeah.
So the price was cut in half of what the MSRP was originally.
Yeah.
It dropped some features, but nothing major. But the
PS2
idea that
support was pretty major.
I guess I was thinking I'm like a compact flash support.
Oh yeah. That's not what you really cared about.
But even then, like, I guess what had happened for me is I'd gotten out of video game retail by the time the PS3 Slim was out because I was older.
Yeah. Right.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I didn't realize how much better it started selling.
Oh, yeah.
And then also the simultaneous shift in Microsoft to family stuff and Kinect stuff.
Well, speaking of that,
tell me about. I love this. You dropped this on me last week, and I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah. So we talk about the release of Kinect as basically the death of the 360, and
right.
Among hardcore gamers, that's basically how it's seen. The highest selling game on the Xbox 360 is Kinect Adventures.
This is
by quite a bit.
Insane to me. I don't even know what Kinect Adventures is. I've never even heard of this game.
So Kinect Adventures is a Kinect family game made by Rare.
Okay.
That is just a collection of mini games. It's basically like somewhere between Wii Sports and Wii Party, but
how many
Kinect
mini games
powered.
can you include where the only way to interact with them is jumping around your living room?
I think there's like a dozen on there or something like that.
This is insane. Years into the 360, into it, the best-selling, because I mean, this is halfway through the 360's life cycle that this game comes out.
Yeah.
And it eclipses Grand Theft Auto 5. It eclipses Minecraft. It eclipses every Call of Duty on this system. Yeah. It is the best-selling 360 game, period.
Oh, I'm sorry. There are 5 mini games on Kinect Adventures. And the one that is on the cover is River Rush, where you are on little boats and you have to row.
That is insane. I would never have guessed that in a million years. If you're like, what is the best-selling 360 game? I would have for sure been like, a Call of Duty, maybe a Halo.
I was incorrect. That one was not Rare. That was one of the Kinect games that was not developed by Rare. Developed by somebody called Good Science Studio.
There you go. The best-selling developer on the 360 is Good Science Studio.
Also, as of now, it is still one of the 50 best-selling games of all time.
I don't. This is why this one blows my mind. This is such a reality check for me, and this is such a reminder that we live in this little core gamer bubble.
Yeah,
and we are so often unaware of what is going on in the industry outside of it. Who fucking bought this? I've never even seen this game on a shelf. Who purchased it?
If you pick up a bulk lot of used Xbox 360 games, and it's not a launch model 360, you will get Kinect Adventures. It is always in that set, and you can tell because it comes in a purple case, and you'll always see it from a distance, and it's always... Every Kinect game was supposed to come in a purple case, but if you see a purple case, it's always Kinect Adventures, every single time.
That's nuts to me. I was so checked out so hard from the 360 when it pivoted here that I just never even noticed it. My
old roommate, he made himself a job just kind of flipping dumb shit on eBay, and he would buy like bulk sets of like shitty USB cameras or whatever, and then just resell it on eBay and make a few bucks. And when I started living there, he started getting more into reselling video games because he did not realize there was money in video games. He still had some of his old video games from when he was a kid, and he would occasionally play stuff on his PS3, but he didn't know there was money in it. And when he learned that, he started buying any bulk set of video games he could get at Goodwill, and every single time there was a Kinect Adventures in there. One time, there was 30 Kinect Adventures in there. and it took him for fucking ever to sell them. And he was like, "Do you want these cases just to use for your games?" And I was like, "No, I don't want those shitty purple
They're the
cases.
wrong color.
You keep your shitty purple cases."
This is just wild to me.
Yeah.
Just
Kinect Adventures is a big one.
Really, the notion that the Kinect was financially successful in general is kind of wild to me.
Oh yeah,
honestly.
yeah, and you know, we joke about how the Kinect ended up making a second life, you know, in airport security and in doctors' offices and shit like that. But the thing is, it was revolutionary tech at the time, and if it had been used better, I think it really could have been a cool thing for video games. But instead, they opted to use it almost exclusively for just shovelware garbage.
What fucking tech was it where the patent had a guy standing up from his couch, throwing his hands up and shouting McDonald's?
That was Sony's patent for the Bravia TVs that would have paused on advertisements until you acknowledged them.
You just stood up and shouted McDonald's.
I love that picture so much.
We have to move on. We have so many more to get through. Give me the next one.
Yeah, here's some quick hits for sales before we move on to the next topic. The casual market frequently makes the hardcore market look like a joke. Casual games, including mobile games and Candy Crush and stuff like that, frequently have higher revenues than anything that we think of in the hardcore gaming industry.
Oh yeah.
Also, for people like me, especially who almost exclusively look at story-driven, you know, more cinematic style games, I frequently forget that how massive shooters are, and they really are. They're Call of Duty and Fortnite and things like that are the industry as far as the hardcore industry
They're
goes.
massive and are still eclipsed by a match 3 puzzle game on iOS you've never heard of or seen.
Probably, yeah.
And they're financially dwarfed by these things. Hell, a lot of big AAA tentpole releases are financially dwarfed by fucking Roblox.
Yes. Yeah, Roblox is much bigger than anyone gives it credit for. It's a massive market on itself. Yeah. Also, discounting the mobile game market, the highest selling game of all time remains Minecraft. It is not, any big popular titles we think of. It's Minecraft, and it has been for a while. It sold 300 million units across 11 platforms in 16 years. So that's your answer to what you were asking earlier. How many platforms Minecraft is on? It's 11.
16 or 11. 16 years, 11 platforms.
16 years. Also, second place behind Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5 at 210 million units over 3 console generations in 12 years.
That's nuts. That's just nuts. And everyone keeps saying, why has it been so long for GTA 6? Here's why. It's still fucking selling.
Correct.
It's still making, with a B, billions of dollars in the online.
Oh, yeah. And also, we tend to think of like these revered games from gaming history, you know, the Marios and the Metal Gear Solid and Resident Evil and all the stuff that's been around for 30 plus years. We're like, oh, these are the tent poles. This is what's holding up the gaming industry. No, it's Grand Theft Auto 5 and Minecraft.
Yeah. And really, even more than that, it's a match 3 puzzle game you've never heard of on iOS.
It's all things from the last 10 to 15 years. That's where the money comes from.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Also, the highest-selling Nintendo title that didn't come bundled with a console is Pokemon Red, Green, Blue, Yellow, which is 47.5 million units. Between the 4 releases combined is less than an eighth of what Grand Theft Auto 5 sold.
Yeah.
And
it's considered one of the most successful games of all time.
And the highest selling Nintendo title that didn't come bundled with a console that isn't Pokemon is Wii Fit.
God damn
at 43.8 million units. So.
Yeah, that one's a reality check. I remember all those fucking balance boards all over the place.
Oh yeah, I still got mine.
Holy shit! I still got mine too. But in case so I can get on there and have it tell me I'm fat.
Yeah,
it's cute little voice.
When I first started losing weight the first time, and I got on there, and it was like, "That's obese," and I was like, "Thanks, Nintendo." I needed a squeaky voice to tell me how fucking obese I was.
You went McDonald's.
Well, I had to get past that screen.
We have a popularity section here. I want to do this one just because I already knew this one. I like this one. This is fun.
I didn't put as much in this as I wanted to, but we still have it here.
Nintendo franchises. This is in our popularity category. Despite being produced in Japan, Metroid and Punch-Out were pretty unpopular in Japan.
Yes.
And most of their sales come from overseas, which is a lot of the reason why we're always clamoring for a new Metroid. And Nintendo Japan is like, that thing? You want more of that thing?
It's gotten a little more popular in Japan in recent years.
It has.
But only in recent years.
The same way Fire Emblem has gotten more popular over here since Awakening. There's been some
Exactly.
trajectory changes.
Also, Punch-Out specifically, there was that Wii game, Captain Rainbow, I think.
Yep.
It was kind of the celebration of Nintendo history. And famously, they included Little Mac in there, but Little Mac had gotten out of shape and fat because it had been years since he had boxed. And Japanese fans were like, who is this guy? Who's this fat guy in Captain Rainbow?
It's Little Mac. Zelda, also historically much less popular in Japan than in the West.
No. They're still more popular than Metroid or Punch-Out. By
Sure,
a lot.
most definitely.
Yeah.
But there's
But
some weird Nintendo disparities here.
And also, Ocarina of Time was never nearly as popular in Japan as it was in the West. That was huge in the West, but just another Zelda game over there.
Yeah. We have a connectivity section here I'm excited about. What do you got here?
So the Dreamcast is regularly cited as the first console to come bundled with a modem.
Yes,
though a lot of younger people today probably don't realize there was online on the Dreamcast. There was.
Mhm.
We could download DLC.
It had the internationally recognized symbol for the internet, which is a little wireframe globe right on the console.
Right, yeah.
You could see it. So there you go.
Also a powered by Windows CE logo on the front.
Why is that still used as the international symbol for the internet?
It is. That is.
Because
my
on
phone has
Switch, Switch games that have the internet connectivity required like banner, it's
Yeah,
that
they still
same
have
little
that
wireframe globe.
Yeah.
What is that? Why? Who
I don't know.
decided that?
I don't know. Modems still have that on there
Do
to tell
they?
you if it's connected. Yeah.
How weird. What
Yeah,
a
it's
weird.
weird.
Someone must have standardized it. Now I
My-
want to know who came up with that icon.
My Google Wi-Fi router has that little icon on there.
I also like that we assume it's a globe. It's just a sphere. There's no
Yeah.
continents on it. It's
No.
just a wireframe sphere.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah. So for kids out there, Dreamcast did have online, but though that is generally recognized as the first console to come bundled with a modem, people often forget there were modems available for the Famicom, Super NES, Genesis, and Saturn.
I did not realize there was a modem for the Saturn, but it makes sense because
Oh, yeah.
I knew the Genesis had one.
It was called the Sega Netlink, and
Oh
it
my
had its own
God.
little shitty web browser. It plugged into the memory card slot, and you would just plug a phone line into it, and we had it, and it was awful. It was just straight trash. There was nothing worthwhile on it, including its web browser. Like its web browser was already out of date by the time it released.
Yeah.
It could not support tables on websites because it
So you
only
just-
supported HTML. I don't know if it was 1.0 or 2.0, but it didn't have the functionality of Netscape 3.
So basically just plain text internet.
Right.
That's all you got.
And I think it had an email client, a real basic
my
email
God.
client. Like in theory, it was supposed to support internet play. I think there must have been some game on Saturn that supported the Sega Netlink. I sure as hell never played it.
Yeah.
So is I probably should have looked up to see what games supported Netlink, but I know. There's 6 of them. There's 6 games on the console that
great.
support Sega Netlink. You got Daytona USA
Uh-huh.
Netlink Edition,
Mm-hmm.
not regular Daytona USA. You had to get the Netlink Edition.
Oh, you had to buy a special version.
Yeah, you also had Virtual On Cyber Troopers Netlink Edition.
That's pretty cool. Oh, another separate discrete edition. Okay.
Uh-huh.
That's not cool.
Then the 4 games that actually supported in their retail releases: Space Hulk, Sega Rally Championship Plus, Duke Nukem 3D, and Saturn Bomberman.
I'm sorry. Space Hulk? There was a Saturn port of Space Hulk?
There is, yes.
Like I'm Googling this. The
the
Space
Warhammer
Hulk? Like
thing.
Warhammer
Yeah, yeah.
40k Space Hulk?
Yeah.
I want to fucking play fucking Warhammer 40k Space Hulk on the Saturn. Looks like it was on the 3DO, the PlayStation. I'm going to be downloading this shit fucking later.
It's a game that EA put out way back in the day.
Oh my god, the 3DO cover art, that Terminator looks so derpy. This is amazing. I'm going to
Yeah.
check this out.
But yeah,
I'm
also
excited.
Saturn Bomberman. That's the one that I am interested in trying on SegaNet.
Right. Was it worth it?
Um,
How many other people did you find?
No, I didn't have Saturn Bomberman. I wasn't a millionaire.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, there was also a modem for the Genesis. There was
Uh-huh.
actually 2 modems on the Genesis.
Genesis
There
had
was
the X-Band, right?
X-Band and also the Sega MegaNet.
Oh, yeah. Because X-Band
Which-
was third party. right?
Yes, X-Band was on Super NES and Genesis, so it was third party. MegaNet was first party, but not released outside of Japan, except for a 5 years later release in Brazil for some reason, which I don't question that. That tracks.
Wasn't that the basis for the Wii Virtual Console version of Street Fighter II that supported online play?
I believe so, yeah.
Because they put the online Genesis version from Brazil of Street Fighter II on the Virtual Console.
All that tracks for me. I believe all of this.
I feel like I remember that being the thing. Because we were all like, where the fuck did you get an online ROM of Street Fighter II? Did Nintendo add this? And it's like, no, they just yanked the shit. It's just a ROM with already had online.
But yeah,
I can't imagine the netcode's very good.
Yeah. Also, both the Super NES and the Genesis supported game downloads.
What would they download to? Just straight to RAM, and it would just go away when you reset it?
So the Genesis supported it through Sega Channel, so you had a dedicated cartridge that would connect to your cable connection directly.
Uh-huh.
And so it downloaded the games to that cartridge that had writable memory. And the Super NES used Satellaview, which had a whole fucking extension to the bottom of the Super NES.
Okay.
And a cartridge
that had
and it would
memory, presumably. Okay,
right.
Okay, yeah.
The cartridges would have separate little cartridges you could plug into them that you could write to, and you'd have to buy the empty cartridges or rewrite your existing ones. So there was a couple different options there. Also, in the U.S. we didn't have it, but in Japan they had the writable cartridges or discs rather for the Famicom disk system. You could go to a kiosk and write your discs and then bring them home and play them. And then Super NES had the Nintendo Power System in Japan, which was writable cartridges that you would go to a 7-Eleven or something, plug a blank cartridge into a kiosk, purchase a game, it would write it to the cartridge, and you'd take that cartridge home and put it in your Super Famicom and play it.
When Nintendo in their Direct today announced their cartridge swapping shit, I thought this is what they were announcing, and I was excited.
No,
I was like, awesome idea. And then they're like, nah.
It was just another way to manage your digital games.
Just
licensing.
Slightly more functional family sharing, but still not as functional as just buying a fucking game cartridge.
Right.
You did it, Nintendo.
Yeah.
We have a platform availability section I'm
Yes.
excited about. Let's dig into this one.
So Microsoft has been getting a lot of attention now for releasing their games on Nintendo and Sony's platforms.
Right, because everything's an Xbox, so they release it on the Sony Xbox and the Nintendo Xbox.
Right. But also Microsoft released games on the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, and Nintendo 3DS.
I know this one because I have the Microsoft Games collection on Game Boy Color.
Yeah, the entertainment pack? Or
the one with Jewel Thief, because that's my wife's favorite game ever.
I think that's the one that has Ski Free on it, isn't it?
I don't know because I don't play Ski Free because it scares me.
Yeah, there's two Microsoft collections on Game Boy Color.
Okay.
And one of them has Ski Free, and the other one has Solitaire, but I don't remember which one is which.
Yeah.
And then on Game Boy Advance, they released some Banjo games and I don't remember what else they released. There was several Microsoft games on Game Boy Advance, and on Nintendo DS there was another Banjo-Kazooie, I believe. And then on 3DS they released Minecraft at the very least.
I forget that Banjo-Kazooie exists beyond Banjo-Tooie. Like in my brain is Banjo-Tooie, and then he was abandoned as the character of all these years.
No, there was Grunty's Revenge, and there was Nuts and Bolts, and
there's like 3 or 4 more games.
Yeah. And then just Minecraft, Microsoft published on PS4, PS Vita, PS5, Wii U, Switch, and new Nintendo 3DS.
Oh yeah, forget about the Nintendo 3DS port of Minecraft because it was a new Nintendo 3DS exclusive.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is weird to me, but okay.
Oh, yeah. The only ones I can think of off the top of my head were Minecraft and Xenoblade.
Xenoblade, yeah.
I think been another one.
Weren't some of the Virtual Console games like...
Yeah, all the Super NES Virtual Console games. But I mean physical releases.
Because the 3DS couldn't handle Super Nintendo ROMs.
That was a lot. Except for if you hack your 3DS, you can definitely play Super Nintendo.
Right, and then it works just fine. But that's because you're a fucking pirate.
Right, hacker.
Yeah.
And while we're on that topic, Sony had published games on the NES, Game Boy, Super NES, Game Gear, Genesis, and Sega CD before they released the PlayStation.
I knew they did NES stuff. I remember seeing those. They did Solstice? Did they do Solstice?
Yep. They also did Super Dodgeball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they published that in the West.
Like the Kunio Super Dodgeball?
The same, correct.
Very weird.
Yeah. They also, on NES, did Hudson Hawk and Hook.
Hudson Hawk is the only with the Wizard movie that I've ever seen specifically mention playing Nintendo.
Oh yeah. Probably
fact,
as a tie-in for the game.
In fact, in the Wizard, I don't know if they ever refer to it as playing Nintendo.
Oh yeah, because they had official Nintendo licensing. Nintendo probably wouldn't have been okay with that.
You could say play a Nintendo or the Nintendo.
Yeah.
But you couldn't say play Nintendo, which is the phrasing everyone used at the
time.
Oh
yeah, absolutely the phrasing everybody used.
Which makes Hudson Hawk the more accurate to real life nomenclature Nintendo film.
Yeah.
Also just a great movie. I still quote that movie all the time. It's fantastic.
I was looking up some information about the Hudson Hawk game when I was researching all this, just to see what all platforms Sony put it on. And the Wikipedia article for the Hudson Hawk video game, when it's for the reception section, lists nothing except for 2 screenshots, and one is captioned "Rhinoceros in the library" and the other is captioned "A hostile kangaroo."
For anyone that's never seen this movie, it is a action comedy starring Bruce Willis. If you need more than that, then you're not paying attention. It's great. It's fucking great.
Yeah. But yeah, Sony was putting stuff on everything at the time. In fact, Sony continued to publish games on the Genesis after the release of the PlayStation. They put out at least one sports game. Also, they released some Saturn games and an N64 game after the release of the PlayStation.
An N64 game?
Yeah, Wipeout 64.
Oh, yeah. How blasphemous.
Right?
I forgot.
Granted, they didn't put their name on that one. They made Midway publish it in much the same way that they're making Bamco publish Patapon and Hot Shots on Switch. But they did let it get out there.
Let's do Nintendo. Everyone knows about the Philips CDI games.
Yeah, because they're disasters.
But that, they licensed it out and it ended up being a shit show. But
prior to that, there were Nintendo games on Atari consoles, on ColecoVision, on NEC computers. Several of those.
So Atari was what? Donkey Kong?
Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong Jr.
Oh yeah, because there was that weird ass Atari Mario Brothers commercial.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, the one to the theme of the theme song, or to the tune of the theme song to Car 54, Where Are You? Yeah, I love that commercial so much.
Oh God. Yeah, I remember that. What do they do on NEC computers?
So Hudson ported several Nintendo games to NEC computers, including Excite Bike, Ice Climber, and Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, wow.
And it was a different version of it called Super Mario Brothers Special. And the NEC PC-8801 that it was running on couldn't handle screen scrolling properly. So you would just get to the end of the screen and it would load the next screen and you'd be on the left side.
Oh, no.
And it's so bad and the colors are wrong and it's really weird. Somebody remade the entirety of Super Mario Brothers Special in Super Mario Maker 2. And you can download all the levels and play them in a good working version of Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
So
that's the worst.
If you're going to play it, that's the way to do it.
Sega's on your list here. Now, I feel like Sega was always a little more lenient.
A little more laissez-faire. Their stuff was all over the place.
Yeah.
You saw licensed ports of Sega games on NES and TurboGrafx. There were original games Sega made for the Wonder Swan and the Neo Geo Pocket Color. And then, of course, ultimately, they just went third-party, so it didn't matter. But it still felt weird seeing a Sega logo on NES when you would play Shinobi or Fantasy Zone or those. Trying to think of some of the others. There's several.
There was a moment there, and I talked about it in our Xbox. Was it our Xbox Live? No, it was our read-along episode coming out in early April, where after Sega kind of folded and went third-party, it felt like the Xbox was sort of treated like the Dreamcast 2, and for a minute there, it felt like Neo Geo Pocket Color was going to be like the Game Gear 2.
Yeah.
And then it just ended up flopping in general, but...
Right, yeah. For a little bit there, it felt like the Xbox was the Dreamcast 2, and the GameCube was the Genesis 2.
Yeah, weirdly enough.
Yeah, and then the PlayStation was whatever else Sega had left over.
Yeah. Tell me about this Atari shit. I didn't realize that they published on other platforms. I mean, I know they did later, but like during the Atari 2600 era?
Yeah, they published stuff on the Intellivision and the ColecoVision and the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20. They didn't publish it under their own name. They made a separate label to publish things on other platforms. But nobody would have guessed that it was them because their other publishing name was Atari Soft.
Who could that be?
Who knows?
It's a mystery to everyone.
That was their publishing label for non-Atari platforms, was Atari Soft. And including Mario Brothers was published by Atari Soft on Intellivision.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So, you can... That's going deep there. It's the Nintendo game published by Atari on Mattel's console.
We really should do a top 10 worst Mario Brothers ports because there's a good amount of them. It's been on a lot of shit.
Yeah, Atari put it on everything.
This finally brings us to the real reality check for all of us, which is the age category.
Yeah.
And I want to preface this by saying it's tough to think about things like the PS2 being a quarter of a century old. It's tough to think about things like the Xbox 360 being almost 20.
It'll be 20 this year.
It's tough to think about this stuff, right?
The PS5 is already 5 years old, Justin.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Because like the Xbox 360 is almost 20.
Yep. It'll be 20 this year.
When the Xbox 360 came out 20 years before that,
was the
NES. It feels like an utterly different era. So it is. I think the timeline feels weird because, one is that's just how time is. As you age, time feels different to you, and you experience it differently, and you contextualize it differently.
But also, we had massive shifts in technology for, between 72 and 2005. And then from 2005 to 2025, we've had shifts in technology, but they've not been so obviously noticeable and massive.
Yeah. And I think we used to, less so these days, but when in the early days of the show in the Discord, we'd get asked all the time, like, hey, what do you consider retro? What is and isn't retro? Because it was several years ago, and there was still some stuff where it was sort of on the edge of like, is the Wii retro? Now more years have passed, and it's like this begrudging acceptance of you can't not count that. Yeah, it's fucking
the
old.
Wii
is
is almost
shit
20
now.
years old now.
You can't not say that it's retro.
Yeah.
But there's this like it still feels like there's an asterisk next to it.
One thing that I always like to point out to people is when the Wii came out in 2006, they had the Virtual Console of Nintendo's classic consoles. You had the NES, Super NES, and N64 on there. The last N64 game was published 4 years before the Wii came out.
That's
4
bonkers
years before the Wii came out. 4 years ago, we were already getting PS5 games. And that was considered retro at the time. So it's it does feel like there's some time bubbles involved.
It does. A lot of it I blame on stuff like COVID, which feels like it just took 5 years from us. But my hope is, what I hope it does is, as we age, we start to just think of gaming as gaming. There is gaming. It's all one big thing.
Indie gaming has helped a lot by bringing back a lot of the retro aesthetics and retro style and retro genres that had otherwise died. And by bringing those back, we can more easily bring games from the past back to the present, and people enjoy them without having to have the extra context of everything.
Yeah. All right. So hit me with some of these age-related reality checks.
All of these are written in a way to make people hate me, so I don't even apologize. 1, Assassin's Creed has been a top-selling video game franchise for nearly 18 years.
God damn.
That's the equivalent to the length of time between Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Sunshine.
Holy shit. Woof.
On that note, Call of Duty has been a top-selling video game franchise for nearly 22 years, which is roughly equivalent to the length of time between the release of the Famicom and the Wii.
22 years.
And
that's a whole person right there.
It's been nearly annual that whole time, too.
A person born the day the first Call of Duty came out would be graduating college.
Oh yeah, they would be legally allowed to drink in the U.S.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 5, just the 5th game in the series, not the series as a whole, has been a top-selling game for nearly 12 years, which is the equivalent to the length of time between the release of the Atari 2600 and the Super NES, or alternatively, if you're younger, between the release of the Genesis and the GameCube. The PlayStation, the original, was released in 1994, 22 years after the release of Pong. So the timeline between Pong and PlayStation, 22 years. 22 years after the release of the PlayStation, we had Persona 5, Fallout 4, Dark Souls 3, and Overwatch. Also, fun fact, you and I had already been recording our show for over a year by that point.
Yep. We are now becoming retro.
Yeah. We are reaching the 10th anniversary of our show's first episode this July. Our show will be older than the Xbox 360 was when we started recording.
God damn. It really goes to remind you how we think of gaming in these eras, and I see a lot of people call them generations. I've only recently started using the generational terminology because it all always felt so mixed up to me, that is it really...
I felt the distinction between the 8-bit and the 16-bit generation, the 16-bit and the late 90s generation.
Specifically, that change was even the N64 PS1 shift, I was still very young for.
Yeah.
And so it's always felt fuzzy to me. But I think we think about gaming in terms of eras just because it helps contextualize and compartmentalize things.
Sure.
But these eras back then were so much shorter than they are now for a litany of reasons that the industry didn't focus on things as long. It didn't need to make as much money back over such longer periods of time.
The tech was just evolving drastically.
But yeah, that's the other big thing is that the tech was massive. Like I see this meme and it's like games 10 years apart, and it's like an NES game. It's like Zelda on NES and then like Zelda on N64.
Ocarina of Time, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like games 10 years apart now, and it's just 2 pictures of Breath of the Wild or whatever.
It could also just be 2 pictures of Grand Theft Auto 5 for all that matter.
Yeah, and it's like we these eras are having to be so much longer.
Yeah.
And I do think, to be the cynic in the room, some of it is corporations grasping onto shit as hard as possible and beating everything into the dirt. But I think some of it is also just, there's a glass ceiling on realism and stuff. But also
the push towards games as a service, just try to milk as much money out of it, is making games last longer than they used to.
Yeah, no game can just come out and have sales for a few months and then slowly trickle off into video stores. It's like, no. This needs to be millions of people's main hobby for at least a year.
We need to keep the engagement at so many hours per day, every day.
It's crazy. I don't know. It's a tough pill to swallow a lot of the time, and it definitely feels like a reality check. Just, I don't know why Assassin's Creed is the one that got me. You know what I think it is to me in my head, because Call of Duty has gone through, it was originally just sort of some World War II shooters, and then it has turned into this ridiculous, weird thing.
I believe you.
But in my head, Assassin's Creed was always just like, it was just those lame Ubisoft games about that guy in that white hood, not that white hood, but, he had a hood and it was white. Let me clarify. But I don't think the games have been about Ezio for like 15 games now. I think he was only in like 3 or 4 of them.
Well, they did just release that Ezio collection.
They did, and it's not every game, so I know he's not in every game.
Yeah.
But Assassin's Creed being 18 years, because to me in my head, Assassin's Creed is like that new upstart third-person action game that I'm not going to play still.
Right. Yeah, it's been around. It's old enough to go to war, Justin.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Hopefully these were some reality checks for everyone out there. As far as final thoughts, I guess what we're getting into, but
also, I would just like to say before we get into final thoughts, if you're not already in the Discord, join our Discord and tell us what your reality checks are that are going to make us feel bad.
Oh yeah,
I want that. Please give me those.
Shrek related ones always get me.
Oh,
People
yeah.
always contextualize things with Shrek, and
Yeah, that's almost 25 years old now too, isn't it?
shut the fuck up.
I
Shut
was-
up, Saturn.
I was just out of high school, I believe, when I saw the first Shrek, and that would have been in 2001. Yeah. Oh no, I was just out of high school. It was summer of 2001 when Shrek came out. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's 24 years ago.
Simpler times.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough to keep it all in your head.
Yeah.
As far as final thoughts, I think the lesson here is that everyone's perspective is valid.
Yes.
Time is a bastard,
Right.
and we sometimes we need to think about games differently than we did back then.
And
Not just
even-
because
go
we're
ahead.
getting older, but because the medium has shifted so drastically within our lifetimes
Definitely, yeah.
that it just has changed so much that it's not the same as it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you saying?
Well, I was going to say, even beyond the time aspect of it, there's so much that we forget about the earlier phases of video
Oh, yeah.
games that just kind of gets shuffled under the rug because it was either shovelware or because people just didn't catch on to it until 10, 20, 30 years later.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that we think of as weird or new now that really have kind of been around the whole time.
There's also stuff where like society will really focus on something for a little bit of time, pay attention to the parts of it that happened during that time, and then as a culture sort of forget about it and not
Yeah.
notice the tail end of it. Like we didn't even talk about this one, but like the Wii kind of dropped off a fucking cliff in the last half of its lifespan.
And yet was still the highest selling console of its generation
Still
by
the high,
a lot.
but it was very it like had this insanely white hot entry
Yeah.
and then slowly sort of died a
Very
slow
front-loaded.
death on the vine.
Yeah.
And everyone remembers it as this like white hot excitement, and it really kind of was that for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then all the news outlets and society kind of moved the fuck on, and then by 2009 Nintendo's like, please buy a Wii, please buy some Wiis from us.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Granted, they were still selling the console. It's just that
Sure.
the games on it were kind of fizzling out. Like those
Yeah.
early games are what sold.
Yeah. Well, granted, and this is a very salient point, is for a lot of people, the Wii was Wii Sports.
Yep.
That's what they
Or-
bought it for, because
Or Mario Kart. Wii
or
Sports
Mario
and or
Kart.
Mario Kart.
because the news told them to.
Yeah.
And it's very, very weird.
And briefly, We Fit.
You know what else is weird?
Hmm.
It's our Patreon.
What?
Patreon.com/Retro Warriors. You get all kinds of weird shit there.
I
Talking
never
Wizards
saw
is
that coming.
fucking weird. We talked about the weird forgotten era of mobile phones from the early
Yeah.
aughts in the pre-show this week.
Oh, that was
For a while, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And get all that stuff, and also your name in Discord will be orange,
That's true.
so-
Yes, you do get orange name, and that's important.
and you also get access to our exclusive Talking Wizards channel, which is mostly,
Yes.
let's see, right now, it's a video of Jim Varney, some Yakuza memes,
Yeah.
and some soup-flavored cough drops that you shared.
yes.
So that's just a free.
Specifically, it says soup you can suck on.
God damn it! Who came up with this fucking catchphrase, and why are
Progresso.
they still allowed to have jobs? Makes no sense to me.
I just came into my office and that box that says soup you can suck on was proudly presented on a desk as if they were trying to sell it to somebody.
Also, pictures of yogurt, because
yeah,
my
I've seen
favorite. This is I was explaining this joke to my wife, which is on Talking Wizards. Andrew mispronounced Oikos yogurt as Oinkos,
Oinkos. Yeah.
and so the joke has become you fucking pig, eat your Oinkos. And now my wife and I call it Oinkos.
Yeah. Well, of course.
It's forever Oinkos now. Anyway, you can get
Yeah.
cool stuff there. Patreon.com/Retro Warriors. You also get the show ad free. No, none of these intrusive ads.
But also early.
Also
Like,
early, yeah.
usually
This
a couple
the
weeks
big one.
early,
This is
yeah.
the big one. We want to thank the following patrons for giving us money, starting with William Owens,
And Mr. Snub.
Rich Kennedy,
Elson Raves.
Sean Schaller,
Simon Sevchek,
Framoon,
Atreyu Wormwood,
Spooky Dookie.
and Chris Hickson.
All gave us money. Thank you so much for the money. We
Yay.
spent it on Pogs.
You spent
and
it on Pogs.
I preemptively spent Saturn's portion on Pogs because I was worried he would back out of our Pogs only deal.
I
And so
never made
now-
this deal.
I forgot to buy Slammers though, so we're mostly just going to collect them and put them in our Pogs binder, which was a real thing.
Is it?
And yeah, well, so so when you get your Pogs, they all go in the tube, but you can't view your Pogs collection like that. You got to take them out and lay them on the table. It's annoying. So you get a Pogs binder, and the binder pages are little sleeves just the size of a Pog, and you can put a Pog down, and then you can flip through your Pogs binder and trade Pogs with other Pogs enthusiasts.
Is this a thing that you've done?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I was really into it. I had all the Power Rangers Pogs, and I had a bunch of really good Slammers, and one of them was metal. I don't think it was legal, but we didn't actually know how to play the game anyway because we didn't care. We just treated it like Pokemon cards, which we didn't know how to play Pokemon either.
I had never heard of Pogs until that one joke on The Simpsons.
What?
What? And then I never saw one in person. No, never once.
I had huge amounts of Pogs.
Yeah, never saw them. I had to learn what they were after the Pog joke on The Simpsons by asking my friends, and one of them was like, I don't know, I think it's these like disc things. And that
Well,
was
listen,
about it.
mark my words, one day Pogs will come back in
Probably.
Pog form. So, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.